Howdy, howdy, and welcome back. It's another Workshop Wednesday. Today is actually a strategy session. So if you are not necessarily the implementer on your team, or you're not the one that's like inside Google Analytics all the time setting stuff up, that's okay, because this is a type of session that you will be able to learn from, specifically tips on how to make your website easier to measure. And I think this is actually going to help out a lot of people, because this is sometimes where things go wrong. But we'll cover more in just a little bit. First, if you are new to Workshop Wednesday, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. And maybe you found us through the podcast and talks that we give all the places. We've got our content on Digital Marketer and CXL Institute and Social Media Examiner. And of course, we already have lots of people that are coming here because they're members already at measurementmarketing.io, where they're learning all sorts of measurement skills regarding analytics, tag manager, etc. No matter how you got here, welcome. Our job is to help people like you figure out how to use analytics, tag manager, data studio, Facebook analytics, other stuff, basically to figure out how to measure so you know what your numbers are and you know what to do with your numbers so that you can finally grow the numbers. And we put this in the context of the measurement marketing framework, which we cover each and every time here at Workshop Wednesday. Now, we do this because there's 5 key parts: planning, building, reporting, forecasting, and optimizing, but because it also puts the training in context for every Workshop Wednesday. Now, specifically today, we're talking about making your website, some tips at least, to make your website easier to measure. That is absolutely going to come in planning. So you're going to plan through different tools you're using, different tech you're using. You're going to think about it a little bit differently, hopefully after today's workshop, just in the planning stage. The building, of course, because that's where you're setting up analytics and tag manager and stuff like that, and you're going to see some tips there. That is the entire point, is the reports, to make the reports easier to understand, right? So it's going to affect your reporting. And of course, if your reports are more useful, your forecasting becomes a little bit better, a little bit more useful. You can start starting to figure out how things should be working, and then you can measure against those forecasts to optimize. So this particular training, today's particular workshop, really hits all 5 of these. So it is super important, which is why we're putting it under a strategy session for you today. Now, with all of these workshops, just focus on one new thing, one new concept, one either something you've heard differently or maybe for the first time that you can take action on. Then come back, rewatch this workshop. You will pick up other things. I promise you. All of our workshops work like this. So because it's just tough. Sometimes you're just starting out. Sometimes you've got a little experience with a certain thing. So our workshops are made for you no matter where you are. So you'll pick up something different, but just focus on one thing. Focus on where you are. Don't try to hang on to every single thing we talk about, because it can get a little overwhelming a little quickly. So just pick up one new concept, one new thing, and then move from there. All right, are you ready to get started? I know I am. Strategy session. Tips to make your website easier to measure. Now, as is our tradition, we're going to dive right in. And this time, we're going to start with our website, because I thought this is just the best way to do it, is to kind of show you by example, like, here's how you make stuff easier to measure. Here's some things that we're doing that we are fortunate, because we started our websites, and this is measurementmarketing.io is not the first website I've ever had. There's been other websites along the way, but as we moved from developing sites and optimizing sites and doing conversion rate optimization into this whole knowing your numbers stuff, and we really got into digital measurement and understanding measurement marketing, well, we've had a chance to basically recreate our sites over and over again. As we did the measurementmarketing.io brand, it was only after we had some analytic skills at that point. We understood to build a site, we actually could have that chance of like doing it over again. We could build a site in a way that we knew we were going to be able to measure it. So I wanted to show you some of the tips that we've learned. And also, we are still evolving. So I wanted to show you some things that are new that we're doing that make things even easier. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you some examples, but also think about your own site. Like, what happens when you go to your site? And is that something that you can adjust? Because sometimes it's something you can adjust. And I guess I should backtrack and say you can always adjust it. It's just some things are easier to adjust than others. So we're going to go in, and we're on our homepage at the moment. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go into the blog. Now, when I go into the blog, there's a couple of things you will notice that we have set up. These are things I would recommend, by the way, that you take a look at. First is there is a framework here. So you see in the URL, way at the very top, it says /blog/. This is super important, because as I go into a blog post, we now have /blog, and then we have the actual blog title itself. So /blog and then the blog title. We do that for everything. Why do we do this? The reason we put everything under blog is because that was planned. This is something we did in our initial planning of this site because we knew we were going to measure and ask questions around blog posts. So we needed a very quick, easy way to be able to tell something like Google Analytics, this is a blog post. So we basically structured our site to say, in the URL, anything under blog is a blog post. So that's how we identified it. So do that. If you're not doing that yet, make sure you're having all of your blogs, or if you do some sort of special content, use subfolders, right? This is kind of the first tip. Use subfolders. Now, before we go into other things I wanted to mention, I want to show you other examples of subfolders as we go through. So if I go into Win Monthly Pass, which is one of our products. So we go to Win Monthly Pass, look at the subfolders that are coming through here. So here we have subfolder number 1, which is LP. So for us, it just stands for landing page. And this is one of those retail landing pages that, all sorts of companies have. So in this case, all about Win Monthly Pass, and people can go through and learn about all the courses and everything else that we have to offer. Next, under LP is Win. Why? Well, because we've got pages that are focused on essentially offering or promoting the Win Monthly Pass program. So they all go under Win. And then, of course, the name here is Monthly Pass. So there is a hierarchy to the URL structure. So in addition to something like just like blog, which is good for it categorizes certain types of pages, we're doing the same thing where we categorize landing pages. So we know anything that's an LP is designed to, at one point or another, become a landing page, which means the first page of the session, because we send traffic to these pages from different ads and emails and everything else. It's designed to be a landing page. The Win says, okay, well, underneath that, these are landing pages that are designed to promote in one way, shape, or form something about the Win Monthly Pass program. And then, of course, the details of that, which in this case is the Monthly Pass, the retail page that we have set up here. So you can see the offer as it goes through. Now, this structure, let me go back up to the very top here. So this structure has really helped us out. I'm going to show you another example of that structure if I go into Measurement Marketing Academy. So we have landing pages. This one was membership. Now this is a legacy structure. So this is an example of us sort of changing stuff. So we should probably rename this to Academy now. But it's because when this was created, we only had one membership. We just had the Measurement Marketing Academy. Well, now we've got Measurement Marketing Academy for freelancers, which we have here. And we also have Win Monthly Pass courses for those that want to kind of do the lower option. I know I'm going fast through here, but just to show you. So we've got the Academy Freelancers option, which are these two programs. And then we've got the Win Monthly Pass, kind of the Academy Lite, right, kind of version that we have with just the courses. So now that we have two memberships, this membership doesn't work as well. It might make sense for us to switch that to Academy, but we know internally that membership is Academy. So I'm keeping it like that. We've made a decision to do that because to change this to Academy now would require us to do a bunch of redirects and everything else. And honestly, membership is Academy. We only keep Academy stuff under here. So for us internally, it's the same thing. It wouldn't make any sense for us to change it to Academy because it just creates a bunch of complicated, redirects that we might have to do and set up without any other payoff because it doesn't get us anything further. If it did, we might make that change. And part of the reason I explain that to you here in our thinking as to why we didn't make this Academy, even though it would look better if it did, is because it doesn't make sense for us to put all that effort and energy into it to end up where we already are. And that's the same thing I want you to think about. When you get these little tips and changes, like, well, does it make sense for us to put it under blog or do a ton of redirects? Now, if it solves a problem and it makes it so much easier to measure and get answers for you, then maybe it does make sense to do something like that and go through that process. But sometimes it doesn't, right? So this is just an example of why we didn't switch it to Academy, because again, we would get it all set up and it would just end up, measurement wise at least, it would be basically where we already are. We already have everything under membership. Everything that we do under membership is an Academy product. So we know that. And in this case, obviously the name of the product is Measurement Marketing Academy. So we see that there. So I'm going to show you one more that we do. Now, this is just to emphasize the point that landing pages don't always have to be buying type offers. They don't have to be your sales pages. There's a difference. LP for us is a landing page, which means it's designed to be an offer of some sort, or at least something that's designed to be an offer to move them through some sort of customer path. In this case, the Toolbox membership is completely free. So this is the Toolbox, and we have Toolbox pages. Now, again, we call it Toolbox because at this point in our evolution as a company, we understood, okay, we're using LP is the main thing, and then the product, whatever the product is, and then underneath that, the details. And in this case, we just call it the Toolbox because we know that's the primary offer for the Toolbox membership, which is just free to get started. So people can sign up and create Toolbox memberships, get access to a bunch of tools, yada, yada. We will talk more about that. But this is how we did it for the Toolbox. So it's still under LP. Now, again, why did I do this? Because I can set goals in Google Analytics and say how many people are hitting our desired landing pages. How do I know it's the desired landing page? Because it would have LP in it. How do I know it's an undesired landing page, meaning somebody else coming into like a cart page or something like that? Well, it wouldn't have LP because it was never intended to be a true landing page. So that's how we could easily measure that stuff out. The Toolbox, if I wanted to say, well, anything that was LP/Toolbox, well, that's all my Toolbox pages. So I can easily say, did somebody see anything related to any of our Toolbox offers? And that would, just by doing that little phrase in there, and it would take care of that. Or of course, if I wanted this specific page, I can go into the details here. And just to show you, I want to show you in analytics what that looks like. So I'm going to go into site content, all pages. And again, I realize that, you might be more on the strategy end, so you might not actually be in analytics, but I wanted to show you some of this so you could see, what it looks like. So if I just wanted to see my LP pages, and again, I'm just going to show you how to pull a list, but if I wanted to show you the LP pages and say, okay, here are the different LP pages that we have that are getting traffic, right? So I can very quickly see there's a bunch of different ones here coming through. Really, they're kind of probably the same big ones, which is, here's one that we did as an Academy funnel. This is what a new funnel that we were experimenting with. So we did move it to the Academy for that particular page. We have Toolbox. We've got Win Courses. This is our main membership page, which we know is the Academy page. So we're keeping that as it is. But that's pretty simple, right? How quickly I can see what are my desired landing pages. Now, what's really nice about that is if I go to landing page report, and this is why I really like this report, I can come in here and I can say, show me my, intended, let's say, landing pages. These are the pages that were designed to be intended landing pages. What are the results of those pages? So I can come through here and say, well, what's causing results? I can see here's my desired, the intended Toolbox page that was intended to actually be the first page of a user session. What results is it causing? 22 goal completions. In this case, more likely to be Toolbox members, right? So I can see, is this page creating, a quick, in our case, it'd be a quick opt-in rate. The Win Courses page is actually where our Kickstarter packs are. So we can see individual courses as well if people wanted to buy one-offs. So we can kind of see what the results of those are. And we can measure for different goals along the way. So that's kind of the first big tip that I wanted to give you in terms of how to make your website easier to measure is thinking about using URLs. Now in WordPress, these would just be parent pages. That's how you do that. You just put them under parent pages. But it's really not that hard to do. The only thing you would have to make sure that you are cognizant of, that you're aware of, is when it comes to updating this particular thing, you got to make sure redirects are in place. So fortunately, there's lots of ways to do that. Just work for your developers or work with your developers if you don't know how to do that. But there are options to get that done, right? That's a normal thing in the world. It's a lot of moving pieces, but normal. So you can take advantage of that if you want. Next thing I wanted to show you. So as we come through here, you will notice the other thing off on the right-hand side, and we saw this with the blog too, was this little ref equals nav. Well, if I click on blog, you will also notice it says ref equals nav. If I click over here and go to Win Monthly Pass, it says ref equals nav. So this was something that was relatively new for us that we started doing because we wanted just a very fast way to figure out how somebody arrived at a certain page. What was the previous step they did? Now, Google Analytics has referring URLs and things like that you can pull reports from, but we just wanted it very fast. So let me show you what this little ref parameter is. Now, all this is, by the way, is we changed the link in the menu. So instead of linking to blog, and you can see that down here, if you look in the lower left-hand corner when I hover over, you will see it just has, well, yeah, go to blog, but then we just put $ref equals nav. Ref is just a made-up parameter. It doesn't mean anything. We just made it up. So ref equals nav. For us, it stands for like, what was that referring link? What was that refer that they came from? So I'm going to go into Google Analytics. I'm going to show you how this works. So if I come in to a particular page, and I'm going to go into our All Pages report, just 'cause I think it's kind of a neat way to show that. So I go back into our All Pages report. Now in this view, we have parameters showing. So I can see here, there's measurementmarketing.io, people just showed up. Here's the toolbox, people showed up. But then I see Win Courses, ref equals nav. This tells me they arrived on this amount of people, or page views, unique page views here. These users arrived on this page from a nav click. So they just click on the nav and they came through. Here, they came to the blog and they clicked through the nav. That was a link That's how they got there. They got to the blog from the nav link. They got to the toolbox from the nav link. These were people who arrived at the toolbox not through the nav link, right? Not through anything internally, which means, it could have been an email that sent them there or something else, but it wasn't a ref. So we only include those ref links when we want to know kind of what was the thing right before, like what caused them to come here on our site already. Now, here's where this gets interesting. We continue this with RefNav. You can see here, there's a membership for the Academy RefNav. Here's the same page, membership for the Measurement Marketing Academy. This is Nav B. What do you think B stands for? Bottom. So we have on our site, we have a top nav, which is the one we would expect most people to use, but we've got the big old mega footer like a lot of sites do at the bottom. So when somebody clicks on the Measurement Marketing Academy here, you can see on the lower left-hand corner of your screen, right down here, I'm going to hover over, you can see there, ref equals nav B. So now I know the difference between a top nav click, which is just nav, and a bottom nav click, which is nav B. And again, is this something that we're building a big giant report to show clicks on top and bottom? No, but we're looking at it because we can easily, very top level, see 23 uniques came to the top from the top nav. 23 uniques, which was not honestly what I would have expected, came from the bottom nav. I would have expected a lot less come from the bottom nav, but there's a lot of people who are looking at that bottom nav, and now, because I know that it's roughly 50-50 top and bottom, I do not ignore my bottom navigation, right? Like we have to look at that and say, wow, that's actually sending traffic to pages. So it's not just an afterthought, right? And I think a lot of people, their bottom nav might be an afterthought. Well, here I can prove the numbers and say, well, the conversation that the users are having, half of them like going through the top, half of them like coming in through the bottom. Like that's a good thing to know, for us to know. And we easily see that just here, right? Because we can see top, there's nav, and there's the people that arrived on the same page, but through the bottom nav. Now, other page, this is the third page. This is the same page. I want to emphasize this. It's the same landing page, that Measurement Marketing Academy for Freelancers page. This ref equals upgrade. This is members who are in our site. So we have that toolbox membership. So these will probably be free members or Win Monthly Pass members, and they are trying to access a higher level membership. So they're trying to access something that's available for the Academy. Maybe it's the group coaching that we do with instructors, or maybe it was the, focus workshops that we have back there. And they're coming to this page because they're interested in an upgrade. So I have the same page, and now I know this was members coming in from the upgrade. This is so incredibly useful for me because I can see from a strategy perspective that this page, let's pretend roughly 60 views that this page has gotten, right, from people on our site. So this is 60 views from people who are already previously on our site that saw this in their journey on our site. A third of them came in through the top nav, a third of them came in through the bottom nav, and a third of them came in that were existing members. So important for me to know. So now from a strategy perspective, I go and say, okay, well, there's a lot of people seeing the upgrade that are coming through. It's a third of our traffic coming in to see those pages. Is this page really designed to speak to an existing member? And the honest answer, at least at this recording, when we're recording this now, it's no, it's not. It doesn't do the greatest of jobs. So we're developing a completely separate page just for the upgrades because we just realized there's a lot of people who are interested in upgrades. So let's make a better page that more appropriately matches that expectation that the member might be having or the user might be having. So that's something we can very quickly see. So I see this quick little measurement. I don't have to build a report. I don't have to go to Data Studio. I can very quickly see how many people saw the page and then where are they coming from. And that gives me insights. That gives me actions that I can take as a marketer to improve results. So there's just a quick example of how that works using these little ref tags. And again, ref nav B, ref upgrade. If you look through some of these, I'll show you this. So we have ref equals home. So as you come through, now we can see home. What's home? Well, home is the home page. So if I go all the way back up to the top and we go back to the home page here, when I hover over this button, you'll see in the lower left-hand corner, it says ref equals home. Well, that's telling me it's about to send them to the toolbox, but it's from the home page, inside the body of the home page. Here, we've got individual courses. I hover over those. You see they all say ref equals home. So I can tell that they came from the home page link. Now, again, why do I want to know this? Because I want to be able to tell if the home page is doing its job, right? If the home page is doing its job. So I can come through and that's the body copy of the homepage, I can see, well, here's the number of toolbox people that came from the homepage. Here's the analytics people, again, came from the homepage. Here's these homepage, so I can go through and I can see that. And of course, I can do the exact same thing and say, well, I really just want to see the toolbox stuff. So I'm going to say toolbox, because I just want to see that page. And I want to see how the refs are working there. So what I'm going to do here is I can see here's the number of toolbox, right? We got 46 that didn't have any sort of ref tag. These ones did. So here's 25. These are the people that were already on our site and then saw the toolbox page. So the way that it worked, we had some people that came in through an affiliate. Actually, let's just do the refs here. So what I'm going to do, show you a little trick. We're just going to do (ref). So we just see the refs. Oops. Let me go back and try that again. I'm going to edit this. We're going to do page, little containing. And we're going to say toolbox / the toolbox / (ref). That should do it. Okay, let's apply that. All right, so here now we're just seeing the ref tags. These are 53 unique page views of people who were already on our site, existing on our site, and then came over to the toolbox. So here we see ref equals nav. So that's telling me they were on our site, then they clicked on the top nav. 25 of those people. 17 more, or 17 other page views from the home page. So these two primarily make up the majority of the page views. So I can tell that's what's really working. I'm not seeing bottom nav stuff there, right? So why am I not seeing bottom nav? I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to scroll down here to our bottom nav because I don't see the toolbox here. But what did we learn earlier? This is why I love doing these workshops, by the way, because I learn along with you. Here, I see Win Courses. I see Measurement Marketing Academy. I see all these other offers. I do not see the toolbox, but you and I both just saw how Measurement Marketing Academy is getting half of the views from the top nav and half of them from the bottom. The bottom nav is a traffic source for us. It helps people get where they need to go, and I'm not putting the toolbox there. What a miss, right? So I could say, do it yourself. Let's do the toolbox, right? Start for free. Maybe something down here we could put as a big offer for the toolbox. That could generate more toolbox leads for us, more memberships created. So there's something we can get automatically because of these ref tags, because I can see those. Now we have some other ones coming from other places where we have coming through, but this tells me right away already the opportunity that I might have. Otherwise. And it also lets me know, like, is it worth to have it on the home screen, right? In this case, it's an above the fold real estate that's on our home right now. If I come back to home, I'm going to scroll up to the top. We can see here, I've got my above the fold. This is the prime real estate that as marketers, we are offering out to our users. So you got to make sure this is working as best that it possibly can. And if this is underperforming, I need to know about it so I can put something else there instead. So that's how we can measure it. So those little ref would be the other suggestion I have for you, is making sure you do like little ref tags, and you can, ultimately you can start using custom dimensions and things like that. For those of you who know what that means with Google Analytics, you can customize, and that's what we do. So you can do all sorts of really cool things with it. But just the basics, again, I'm trying to keep this kind of from an overall strategy session level here. Just the basics of seeing this in your analytics and being like, oh, okay, what is this telling me? Oh, they were already on our site, then they came into this page, and this is how they got there. I don't have to dig into other reports. I don't have to add in secondary dimensions or any of that stuff. I can just easily tell from the parameter. So adding little parameters that stitch together things like that make it easier for you. Now, we also continue that. I want to show you how we also do that. So if I come down into, actually, I'm going to do the Measurement Marketing Academy here, because this one we just recently did. So I'm going to come down to our little pricing table as we scroll down through everything. Okay, here's our pricing table. So I'm going to hover over these buttons. You can see here, this one goes to the Infusionsoft order form for the monthly Academy freelancers as they're coming down. And it says ref equals retail. Now, retail for us, this is something that we've determined. So we made this up and we stay consistent with it, so it works for us. Retail means it came to the order form. That's what it would show here. It came to the order form from its retail page, from its main page for that product. So if they're on the Academy order form, I know they came from the Academy page. This one does the same thing, except of course it's for the annual package. So it came from it's on the annual order form for the Academy, and I know that it came from, they were just on the Academy page, the main Academy page. But look what happens on this one. So this one is the Win Monthly Pass order form, but it does not say retail because they're not on the Win Monthly Pass page. They are on the Academy page. So we say ref equals Academy. Now, if they were on the Win Monthly Pass page and then they clicked over to the order form, that one would say retail. So I can tell, by just looking at my order forms, and I'm going to do that just because I like to trust but verify that things are working the way I think they are. I'm just going to type in MQ178 just to show us all of our Infusionsoft pages. And I'm going to do a slightly fancy regex here because this will help me get exactly what I want. So I'm going to say 1Q178, then anything goes in between there. Then it has to have ref equals. So we're going to do that. That should just show me order forms with a little ref tag so I can take a look at them. And it looks like it's doing that. That's perfect. So here I see win monthly pass, ref equals retail. So that tells me 3 people that came to the order form came from they were on the Win Monthly Pass page. That is super useful to know. This one, they were on the freelancers page, came from the freelancers, the Academy page. This one also the Academy page. This one also was the Win Monthly Pass page, and this one was also the Win Monthly Pass page. So they're coming through the retail. What we're not seeing is anybody clicking, if I go back, anybody clicking on this button yet. Now that is actually okay because we just came out with this design on the Academy Freelancers. This is like hours old. So I wouldn't expect there to be anything yet. What I would expect is next week, the week after, we start looking back at these reports. When I look at the Win Monthly Pass order forms, I should see some that are on Win Monthly Pass page, and that tells me they came from retail and that the Win Monthly Pass page is doing its job. Or I will see a bunch coming from Academy, which lets me know, okay, there are people that are coming into the wanting to learn about the Measurement Marketing Academy, but decided they needed the next level down and they purchased the Win Monthly Pass instead. I can very quickly see that without having to dive into a bunch of reports. I just go to my analytics, I spend a couple of minutes, and I get back out and I go back to work. And that's the beauty of doing these little ref tags to make your site easier to measure. And you can kind of stitch together things. So it's not just the landing pages necessarily that get this treatment, but I will come through and stitch together the journey for the individual steps so that I can see very quickly, how did they get to my order form? How did they get to my lead form? How did they do this? Those ref tags are super useful. So 2 things we've talked about so far. 1 is that URL structure that's coming through, and 2 is ref tags and the idea that you can do these little ref tags and you can call them whatever you want. Some people call them ITM for like internal tracking module, just like there are UTMs out there. They call them ITM, but you can call them whatever you want. Just something that is, pick something that is not used by anything else. I have found ref to be very useful for that. So you're more than welcome to do that. ITM would also work though, if you want to do that, because nothing that I know uses that. You do not use UTM underscore source, UTM underscore medium. Don't use UTMs at all, because it can just screw stuff up for you. So they are not to be used internally, but use another parameter. And that's why we use ref. Now, the third thing that I wanted to chat with you about, and this is the biggest out of everything when you are trying to figure out how do I make a site easier to measure. So if I'm coming through here, I've got my site, I'm trying to figure out how to make it measure, or how to make it easier to measure, I should say. You need to think about your tech that you're using. And I know from a strategy perspective, especially if you're the one that's kind of the marketer of the bunch and you're trying to, you get all these push button simple tools and you're putting in Calendly or Acuity scheduling, or you're doing Webinar Jam, or you're doing ClickFunnels, and then you use your WordPress site, and then you have a Shopify store, and then you start putting Pipedrive in there, and you have all of a sudden you've got 14 different tech platforms that are all smashed together on your site. Now to the user, it looks amazing. To the user, it seems like there's a good customer journey there. But to a measurement marketer, it is a nightmare because every tech platform doesn't necessarily talk to every other tech platform. And so what happens is, even though the user experiences the site and you even might think, oh, this is super cool. I just go here and then I click here and then I click here. And now I've got a sale and I need to see if my Facebook traffic's working. And the problem is when you go through so many different tech platforms, every time you do that, it's fine if you have these tech platforms, but you have to think about it from a measurement perspective. And can you measure through those tech platforms? Because the answer sometimes, sadly, is not always. You might not be able to measure the journey all the way through the tech platform, in which case you can only measure part of the journey and you may not be able to tie things back down to Facebook eventually. So some tips when it comes to tech. And I wanted to show you a couple things that tools that we use, and this is not a recommendation for these tools, but just to show examples of what to look for with the tools that you are using. So the first one, so if we come down, and I'm just going to go into Win Monthly Pass for a moment, and as I scroll back down, we're going to go into the order form, and let's say we wanted to do Win Monthly Pass, and somebody wanted to buy it for the year. So they go in and They want to get their 6 months free to Win Monthly Pass, so they come into the order form. As soon as they do this, notice, and this is how you know you're on a different tech stack, my URL is completely different. I don't have any control really over this part of it. This is just Infusionsoft, which is the platform that we use for our cart system and autoresponders and everything else. So we're on Infusionsoft now. So we're in a completely different tech platform. I am not on measurementmarketing.io anymore. So now that I'm on this, I have to set up our measurement to make sure that if, let's say, Facebook traffic sent them into the Win Monthly Pass offer page, that now that they're on the order form, Google Analytics at least is able to know, oh, it's the same person, right? And I need to make sure that if they purchase, that all of those purchase details that come through get associated to the Facebook ad so that I can, of course, figure out if Facebook's worth it or not. So how do we do this? Well, in Infusionsoft, this is what you look for. And I'm going to show you in our platform because we use Infusionsoft, but with your platform, this is what you need to look for no matter what you're using. In our Infusionsoft system, this is the order form. This is the actual back end of the order form that we set up for this product. This is the monthly version of the order form, but basically the same thing. So the first thing we have is a little spiffy to make it look nice. That's what makes it look cool like this. Otherwise, Infusionsoft forms look horrible. So we use spiffy for that. This part is the most important part right here. This little gray box, right? The highlighted part. This is Tag Manager. So you have to make sure that you get Google Tag Manager on every step of the journey. If you can get Google Tag Manager, which essentially means script. If you can get script on the pages, that's kind of how you can ask the platform if you're not sure. You just say, hey, can I put, JavaScript on these pages? If you can put JavaScript on the pages, then you can put Google Tag Manager on the pages. And if you can put Google Tag Manager on the pages, then you can measure through the journey. So that is a huge tip for thinking about making things easier to measure, because there are some tools out there that are super cool, but those platforms did not think about measurement, and they didn't think about playing nicely with everything else you have going on because they're probably just too new to do that. Typically, what happens is a cool platform comes out and then they make it better and able to be measured. Initially they're like, oh, here's some cool stuff you can do, but you can't measure it. But when they allow JavaScript on their pages, then you have visibility into what's going on, the different behaviors that are happening. So I can see if somebody had an error coming through here. I can measure for this because I can tell Tag Manager, hey, if this box goes red, please tell our error report that somebody's having a problem filling out the first name field, right? Shouldn't be the case, but maybe, you never know. So we can measure for things like that. I can measure, of course, if they complete the journey, if they complete their payment, right? So we can, that's super important that we can do that with Google Tag Manager. More importantly, I can measure they're even on this page. And because I'm using Google Tag Manager, I can tie that together with the original page, with the original traffic source that sent them to that page so that the traffic attribution remains intact. So if I came from Facebook to Win Monthly Pass, then I click on here to buy the annual edition, I can still associate this page view to Facebook and know that Facebook caused this page view, which is super important because as I complete my payment and I come into our thank you pages, then our thank you page is also associated to Facebook and the traffic attribution remains intact because I can put script on the page. Very important. Now, other tools that you might be using like webinar software, something along those lines, Webinar Jam, I've used for many, many years. This is an example, by the way, of a platform that has evolved dramatically when it comes to measurement because in the beginning, they had these nice little helpful forms and it's like, oh, click here to register and it would pop up this little form and it's awesome. It really works well. But you could not measure it. It was such a pain to measure. Now, and this isn't recent. They did this years ago. So this platform has evolved a lot, specifically with measurement stuff. You can see here, this is an example in their system where you go to integrations, you say third-party tracking tokens, stuff like that. This is what you're looking for in the platforms, by the way. So if you use another platform, then you're not sure if you can do it or not. This is what you do. Look for stuff like this, where it's like, oh, integrations, tracking systems, JavaScript code, right? Things like that's what you're looking for. And you can see here, it says, enter your tracking here. And this is all we did was we pasted Tag Manager in here. So here, this is when anything shows up on their registration page, on their domain, I have Tag Manager on there now. So Tag Manager can do stuff and associate the journey and make sure my traffic attribution is good. I can fire Facebook pixels and create Google Ads audiences. I can do all of that on the registration page because of Tag Manager. I can do it on the registration form. This is super important when it comes to a tool like Webinar Jam because sometimes you just see like a blue button that says register now and you click on it and then it pops up a form where you can register. Well, when that form pops up, Tag Manager's there. So I can measure stuff, right? So because I've got that code on there. And of course on the thank you pages, if they're live on the webinar, if they're on the replay of the webinar. So I have Tag Manager at all those different points in time of the user journey. And because I have that, I can now measure for those different behaviors and, of course, build audiences or create funnels or whatever else I want to do because Tag Manager's on there. And that's the big thing you look for. Can I get Tag Manager script on this platform at the point where I need it? So in a platform like Webinar Jam, it looks like this, right? Because there's different points of the Webinar Jam journey and they give you different measurement that you can do for all of that. So we just put Tag Manager across every stage and we can do whatever we need to at that point. So Webinar Jam did a fantastic job, but there were other platforms that are out there that have the ability to be measured, but you just got to remember to do it. And that's the thing, is to make things easier to measure when it comes to platforms, because it is impossible, I think, to avoid third-party stuff, right? It's just, there's too much out there. They do a really good job of certain things, and I don't want to rebuild a webinar system in WordPress. I want to use something like Webinar Jam or something else. So I want to use a third-party tech. We do use third-party tech. Infusionsoft is an example of third-party tech that we use. But you have to make sure that when you're considering your tech, that you can measure through it. It is super important to be able to do that because sometimes you are limited by your tech. And if you cannot get answers that you need because your company's growing, like in the beginning, throw together whatever you need because you're trying to prove concept. But if you can't, at a certain point, if you cannot get the answers that you need because you're being limited by this tech that doesn't allow you to measure stuff, then you need to evolve your tech. And that is something that is a giant pain sometimes, but might be worth it, because if you can get more visibility, like, we talk about the measurement journey at measuremarketing.io, or if you're in the cave, you can't see anything going on. If you're in the valley of visibility, you can look around and make some really good quality choices. Well, if you're in the cave with a platform because it will not let you measure and you can't get any visibility and you can't connect the dots to other things happening on your site, then maybe that's not as useful anymore for you at a certain point. You outgrow it. So what I would recommend is you email their support and say, hey, I need to get Tag Manager on the pages. How do you do it? Don't ask them if they allow it. Just ask them how they do it. The more that you are doing that, I promise you are not the first person to do that. The more that you do that, the more they will all of a sudden go, you know what we need to start doing? Letting people measure stuff that's happening on our platform and allowing Tag Manager. And as long as they do that, you're golden. You can pretty much get whatever answers you're looking for. And again, maybe not you specifically if you're doing more of the segmentation, but certainly your implementers can. So they would know they can come in, put Tag Manager on these pages, and then they can get you the answers that you need. So you can say, hey, people that came from Facebook, did they show up to the webinar versus people that came from Google Ads? Right? You can ask questions like that and they can give you those answers because they have visibility. So super important. And that is my next biggest tip when it comes to making your website easier to measure is try to minimize the third-party tech, but understand it's impossible practically to avoid it. We're always going to use some cool stuff. But if you are using third-party tech, do your best to make sure that you can measure through it, or else it's going to be harder for you to get your numbers. And again, sometimes the tech is just impossible. They do not let you put Tag Manager on the pages. It's kind of a black box. They might tell you, oh, we have a little measurement system where you can see what's going on, but it's only what's going on in their area. And it's not, you can't tie it together with the user journey. And sometimes that's not all that helpful. You really want to be able to do that. So that's kind of my third and final tip when it comes to all the stuff. If you're using third-party stuff, and typically you can tell because it goes to a different domain. Also iframes, they give you iframes to pop in your site. So even if it looks like it's on your domain, but it's like something like Pipedrive, where they give you a little iframe and you paste a form in there, but it's not, it's actually on their site. Like that's an example. Anytime you do any third-party platform, it can be difficult to measure. So just make sure that you're asking their support, asking your implementers to make sure that they are measuring through. And if they can't, maybe rethink the platform. Chances are, again, you're not the first person to ask them about Tag Manager. The more times they are asked about it, they will eventually allow it, because that seems to be the new wave of things, is people realizing, wow, I got to make my stuff available for other people to be able to connect the dots and the journeys, because it's going to help them when they do that. So ask them. All right. So again, just sort of reviewing what we talked about, URL structure would be the first and foremost. So making sure you focus on the URL structure. If you haven't already done that, do that. Blogs is a huge one. Putting blog posts under the blog directory makes it a lot easier to set goals of who interacted with my blog. And then of course, ref tags. That's massive, because I don't care who you are or where you are or what your tech looks like. You can add a little ref parameter to stuff, and that can answer sometimes like 80% of the questions you're trying to figure out what's going on with your site. Use ref tags. And then finally, when it comes to third-party tech, try to avoid doing all these integrations and implementations and apps and stuff like that. Just try to keep it as minimal as you can. I realize, I know what I'm asking. It's tough. We can't do it, right? I mean, it's unavoidable. You're going to use third-party tech. But if you're using third-party tech, think about measurement first. How will it be measured? How will you tell if it's working or not in the customer journey? And if you cannot do that, maybe consider not using it, or at least emailing their support and letting them know, like, hey, I will totally use you if you do this, because it would just encourage them. Again, you're not the first person asking that stuff. And that's how you measure across things like, Infusionsoft order forms or Webinar Jam or whatever the tech is that you are using. So with that, we will go ahead and start to wrap this one up. What was your one thing? Hopefully you got at least one. I know for me, if I was watching this, it would be the ref tags, because that is the simplest thing. Anybody can do that. It doesn't matter who you are. It's easy, it's fast, it's simple, and the payoff is huge. So using ref tags would be massive. Now, if you do want to learn more about this stuff, you've seen all of our pages, so I'm not going to harp on this too much, but go to measure.tips/courses. You'll see the different courses and sections that we talk about. Win Monthly Pass is obviously a great one to start with if you're just starting out. And then next week's topic. So we are going to, because we do this once a month, the first Wednesday of every month is What's New. So What's New, we're going to cover all the latest updates that have come out to all things Google marketing platform. So Google Data Studio, I'm sure Google Analytics will have new stuff, maybe even Tag Manager. You never know. Actually, I know Tag Manager does, but we'll talk about that next week. So if you want to get updates on all the latest and greatest, we do this once a month. It's a great way to stay up to date and keep your saw sharp. Make sure your implementer is on that if they're not already. And again, if you want to guarantee that you have access to that, just click on the subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then I'll make sure that you get those. Also, the other way for you to do that, and you already saw the Toolbox membership, but again, all the stuff is free back there, and this is not all of it. There's like 40 some odd tools that are back there. It is a massive resource of measurement goodness that is back there for you. Consider the source. I'm biased, I know, but go back there if you haven't already. Create your Measurement Marketing Toolbox membership. It's our free membership. So if you just want to kind of get introduced to what we have to offer and you want to see all the fun stuff and tools, and again, these are full feature tools that you can start using, track your traffic. You can watch the workshop Wednesdays. You'll see what's back there. Completely free. Just go to measure.tips/WW to do that. And before we go, now this is special. This is one of those time-sensitive things I want to make sure that you are aware of. Measure Summit. So Julian from Measure School and myself from MeasureMarketing.io are co-hosting Measure Summit this year, Measure Summit 2020. So this is our page. You want to go there and make sure that you register for that. Free ticket. So you can go up and get that. We will have thousands. I already know we're going to have thousands because we almost have 1,000 people now, and we haven't even started promotion. So this is the first I'm actually promoting it kind of publicly here. So go out there and make sure that you are a part of Measure Summit this year. Tell your friends about Measure Summit. Anybody who's in measurement should be a part of Measure Summit. It's going to be awesome. 4 days. We have a ton of speakers. I won't go into everybody, but you probably should know this guy if you don't already. But there is just really a ton of people that are going to be speaking. Julie and I are going to be there, as well, hosting the event and probably doing a couple of talks as well. There's a ton here. So please take a moment to register if you have not yet done this. Register for Measure Summit is a free ticket so that you can join us live and watch that. 4 days of just awesomeness. That'll be September 22nd through the 25th. So be sure to take advantage of that. Just measuresummit.com will get you there. And with that, this one officially comes to a close. This has been a strategy session, tips to make your website easier to measure. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.